Hey, we're live. All right. Hey, hello, hi. I am Steve Thomas at Choice Minis on your social media of choice, and welcome to our very first live stream. I'm joined by my co-host, hetero life partner, and all-around most knowledgeable sci-fi nerd of my life, Adam Grimm, Mr. A Grimm on Instagram. Adam, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty excited.
I am excited too. This has been 4 months of hard work to get here, and man, I am in for it. All right, so let's talk about what we're going through tonight. So let's talk about Project Neverfallen. So thank you everybody for joining in. We are working on a Dark Angel tonight, but we are working a part of a bigger project called Project Neverfallen. So what Project Neverfallen is basically, we take the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and where we would normally have the lore and the Horus Heresy happens, and everybody falls to ruinous powers, and instead we think to ourselves, what if that didn't happen? This is a project to create 20 of the most iconic infantrymen in the Warhammer 40k universe. We'll be modding, basing, painting, and finishing each one of those chapter paragons. That is, of course, starts today with Chapter 1, the First Legion, the Emperor's First, and the Keepers of the Darkest Secret, the Dark Angels. Adam, oh great Keeper of Lore, what can you tell us about the Dark Angels?
Oh, I have some very tasty tidbits.
Yeah?
Starting out with, they weren't just secretive because of their great shame. They have always been the secretive little boogers. That is kind of their bread and butter. With a lot of the legions, their legion designation, so the Dark Angels being Legion 1, stand out from the other legions where they were actually the first fully created Space Marine Legion and participated in the closing decades of the unification wars of Terra.
Damn. All right, so they got to fight regular humans, eh?
Yeah, they fought regular humans, techno barbarians. They are also credited with stopping uh, a coup that happened right before the outset of the Great Crusade. That was thrown up by one of the original Great Lords of or High Lords of Terra, who hid almost a full chapter's worth of Thunder Warriors. So the Dark Angels have the credit of killing the last of the Thunder Warriors.
All
That
right.
was their first major engagement.
That sounds awful. The Thunder Warriors were cool. Why'd they have to be like that?
Because Big Daddy Emps is not a good daddy.
Well, the further we get into lore, the more we're gonna know that. That's for sure. So,
Yes.
what else can you tell me, man?
Um, well, kind of keeping with the beginnings here, they do favor what would be called prescribed technologies. They were the first legion that the Emperor is like, hey, I have these vaults full of weapons that I've decided to collect all of them and lock them away because they are too devastating to be in the hands of men. And the Dark Angels were like, hey, we're not just men. And he's like, you're right. Fill your boots, boys. So they are the early years, especially the closing years of the Unification and the early Crusade. They were quite well known for the use of plasma repeaters, which is essentially just a full auto plasma gun that doesn't blow up on sixes.
That sounds way better.
Yeah, genophage weaponry. So essentially a hey, I don't like you. I sampled some of your blood and now I'm going to unleash this genetically modified virus that I literally just put your blood into to kill your entire species.
All right. Well, that sounds way cooler, and also terrifying. Let's never develop that technology so the Emperor doesn't have to take it away from us.
Yeah, they are also the bearers of what is called the Tyrannic Great Swords, which are essentially they are unpowered swords, which is kind of strange in like the Heresy era, like the Crusade era, so 30k and 40k, you don't encounter very many non-power swords that are, in lack of a better term, just better than power swords because they were the remnants of the Dark Age of technology. So they
So,
are so finely crafted that power swords are like, oh, we had to use a power field to get that awesome, and the Terronic, I might be pronouncing that wrong. Someone else can correct me. Are weapons designed to kill gods, and they have, or
s-
godlike beings, I should say, because the Imperial Truth leaves no room for gods.
well, good news about those swords. So we're working on our Dark Angel here, and we were talking a little bit about making them into the ultimate version of whatever legion they're a part of, and that those swords, the triumvirate of bubonic plords swords, if I remember, bubonic. Is that the right word for it?
Bubonic?
Bubonic.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, somebody will correct us someday. So those swords are unpowered swords, and our Justicar that you guys have seen me taking bits off of here. Uh, yeah, this is a weirdly unpowered sword on a Dark Angel. So that might make an appearance in here somewhere. The model that I am taking apart right now. So this is a Primaris Judiciar from the
Judicar.
Judicar from the Indominus box set, or you can get them now. There's a link in the description if you guys are interested in grabbing them from GW. Unfortunately, it's not a single model yet. It is still a part of, I think it's $140 Canadian for the set, but it does come with some heavy intercessors, Eradicator, and all of the characters out of the Indominus set, which is kind of nice.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. But so far, I'm just going through and cleaning up some of the bigger stuff that's off on this, and then we'll do a little bit more customization. I'm gonna start removing bigger and more important bits as we go here. So I just wanted to jump in and say that, yeah, we have this big unpowered sword that this guy is gonna have to use at some point and have justification for. So cool that we've already found some in lore, buddy.
Yeah, that was actually something I found really interesting. Here, I actually have, I oddly enough still have the list of their weird prescribed weaponry open.
Nice.
That's a picture of the Raven Wing. Also, they were also, um, before they found Lionel Johnson, they had a special independent unit called Hosts, which did actually eventually evolve into the Raven Wing, the Deathwing. There's a few other ones from the Crusade era that don't exist anymore, like the Dreadwing, which is essentially, hey, we are the chemical weapon troops.
Well,
Uh,
everybody's got to have a little bit of like that Raytheon spirit in their fighting, right?
yeah, so here's a full list of the different hosts. Well, the hosts, from what I was reading and listening to the other day, were essentially outside of the actual command structure of the Legion, so they could attach themselves to different battle companies or larger formations. And actually, the term chapter for Space Marines is taken from the Dark Angels.
Neat. That's
Yes.
that's
So
pretty cool.
that was something interesting. I thought it's kind of nice to know that Rowboat Girly Man is just a plagiarizing little weenie.
Well, he pretty much plays that role throughout the rest of the history of the 31st to 41st millennia. So,
Yeah, so here it is. The full list of what eventually became the different wings, which were the all the different hosts kind of combining into more generalized ones. So all the fast attack formations formed the Raven Wing. The Death Wing was formed from, at least originally here. Where is it? The Death Wing originally formed like they were still the elites as they are now in 40k, but they were the ones that were specifically chosen for like a command route within the Legion itself. So
Cool.
the Deathwing was like the up and coming leaders and just general all around really bad dudes you don't want to meet in a dark alley. Um, they and then there's the Raven Wing, which again is the fast attack, but not just bikes and speeders, but it's also all of the air support, including the different gunships and Thunderhawks, Storm Talons, and all that. And they actually have a couple specific flyers that only Dark Angels and their successor chapters have access to. One being the Nephilim, which is essentially a Space Marine version of an A-10. It has a Vulcan. It's built around a Vulcan Mega Bolter, which is a Titan class weapon.
Neat.
Um, the other one here, I think actually it's the one that the Storm Talon, the little weird Space Marine mini troop transport fighter kind of thing, was derived from. It's like a Dark Angel specific version of that one.
Cool.
Uh, for special ones like that, the Raven Wing is actually one of the larger formations within 40k that actually still does field um, jet bikes.
Wow, I didn't know that anybody actually got jet bikes anymore. So there you go. That's.
Uh, I don't know of any.
Wait, did the Custodes even get jet bikes in 40k?
Yes, they do.
Oh,
They're a fairly newly added unit to them, at least for 40k. They had them in 30k. But the Dark Angels actually, I don't know the character's name, but they do have Samael, the master of the Raven Wing, rides a Mastercraft jet bike with quad heavy bolters and a plasma destructor cannon on the bottom.
that seems like too many. But who am I to judge the amount of military hardware that somebody crams onto a tiny craft?
He also wields one of the Calibanite Warblades. It's a chapter relic specific to only the Dark Angels. None of their successors are able to kind of take them with them when they separate, just because they are. I think there's maybe 10 of them in the Legion or in the chapter in 40k. I'm pretty sure the Grandmaster and all the company masters all have one as like a badge of office. What's another specific thing here for them? They do have a higher percentage of plasma-based weaponry in 40k than any other chapter, especially the Mastercraft plasma weapons, which is kind of, I guess, a way for in um, 40k, like rules-wise, to be like, hey, this is ancient technology that won't blow your arm off, or in the unfortunate case of my Space Wolves, when a plasma cannon rolled a 6, wiped out an entire squad of Longfangs. Turn 1.
That seems bad. Generally
Yeah,
bad.
that was back in, I think that was 4th edition. So I'm not actually sure in ninth, um, if plasma guns do still have that rule in the main game. I know it's still there in Kill Team, but it is a little difficult for for plasma guns to go off like that. I do know in our games that it's happened to me once.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for overcharging your plasma.
Well, that's what I have to do when I fight Death Guard with Imperial Guard. It's just
Yeah.
kind of the way it's gonna go. Um,
That disgustingly resilient save. Mm, so good. So
yeah,
tasty.
yeah, that is one time I wish I took my Grey Knights against them, but I had DKOK with me that day, and that's what I ran.
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're doing on the model right now. Obviously, I'm going through and cleaning up, flashing any of the mold lines or anything that are actually on the model. But the next set of steps here is I'm actually going to start taking big bits off the model. Adam, maybe you can give us a little bit of lore about the Deathwing, if you could, so that we start to make more sense as we chop and hack this guy to bits.
All right. So the Deathwing, I'm gonna start out with again some 30k because I do like the 30k lore a little bit more than 40k, especially concerning the Dark Angels. They were a little less. I hesitate to say douchey.
Hey, man.
Still,
Hey, we're gonna get to give love to every chapter, and we're also gonna bust up every chapter.
Oh,
40k,
absolutely.
and as we rewrite our own ways, vastly superior non-canonical lore for all these chapters, we can hopefully make everybody into less douchey. You know, we can find
I
a cooler core to these chapters than what might be in the fiction as is.
feel like we're gonna really struggle when we hit the word bearers on that one. But some fun lore about the Deathwing in 30K, as I mentioned, they were the like the up and coming um like lieutenants and company masters, chapter masters, and the like. And the white armor actually, and they were when they were within the Deathwing, they would be assigned as bodyguards for leaders.
Cool.
So where actually the bone white armor came from was that they would when they like did some crazy space marine heroic act, so more heroic than heroics normally are. And they took like so the classic like throws himself in front of a bullet dive, doing stuff like that. Takes a few shots to the chest. They would then replace his dark dark black kind of bluey power armor with the bone white, which is now synonymous with the Deathwing as a whole in 40K. I did not find any information about like kind of when that whole change happened.
Hey, so
Um,
I have a weird alternate story on that because if we know anything about 40k and lore, it's that it is absolutely consistent across the board, right? So
the most consistent.
yeah, so there is an alternate story for this about where the bone white armor comes from. So it is from back before the end of the Unification Wars. A bunch of warriors were trapped in a battle that they couldn't win. Like there was no possible way that they could win it. So rather than going out in their like the black slash blue black armor with the red accents, they decided to paint themselves up in bone white in honor of their ancestry and get out onto the field of battle and just lay waste, right? They were going to go through and just murk a bunch of dudes. And they did
They
until they
definitely
died.
did.
Until they died. So they killed
Yes.
just like dozens and dozens of people and were almost all the way through and then, for whatever reason, kicked it. Fine. Happens. But to honor those Space Marines, a certain faction of the first, well, at that point in time, the first chapter of the First Legion started wearing bone white armor as an honor to those fallen soldiers, right? So that is the story I heard. I've heard both, but there is an alternate tale because, there's always an alternate tale. It's 40k. Any lore can contradict any other lore at any point in time.
This is true. If there's one thing we know about GW is that they are masters of the retcon. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Big grain of salt with that one.
Listen, they don't always have to make sense or make anything better.
Oh, it did. That story did remind me of a little tidbit I found out about the Dark Angels.
Oh, yeah.
Before they became the Dark Angels, which didn't actually happen until after the introduction of their Primarch, Lionel Johnson. They were the first Space Marines to be known as the Emperor's Angels of Death.
Neat.
Because when the Emperor met an opponent so brutal and horrendous that he decided it was better for humanity as a whole that all knowledge of them have like be expunged. He assigned it to the Dark Angels, and the regular Imperial Army troops, which would then later become the Imperial Guard. I refuse to call them the name they are now.
Astra Militarum.
No, it's the Guard, son. Um,
Go ahead.
they were given that name as a moniker because once they were done fighting those battles, to keep the secret, they would exterminate the unaugmented human troops they fought alongside. Those that managed to survive the horrendous battles. There's stories of the Dark Angels and entire army divisions of the Imperial Army fighting remnants of the Iron Men, not the Marvel superhero, but the AI, essentially. Really, really angry AI who were tired of being humanity's slaves and
Did something
kind
about
of,
it?
oh, did they ever? It essentially started Old Night. Not well, they were one of the causing factors of the downfall of human civilization, that and the introduction of psychers. It's a whole other thing that we can get into one time if we decide to tackle pre-Imperium history, which I have uh, a lot of knowledge on because Thunder Warriors are cool.
And you're the keeper of our lore, man.
Yes, I am the lore keeper. So
So,
much so that I actually have a book I write down all of my tidbits in for reference.
so now that we've talked a little bit about how the Deathwing were formed, and just for those of you who are following along in the stream, I've got this Justicar's shoulder pad. I'm just going to replace it with this really cool bit that I have that happens to be a shoulder pad from a regular old uh, Dark Angel, and we're going to convert this into a Deathwing badge. So, Adam, why do the Deathwing exist in 40k?
The Deathwing exists to actually this is something I just learned the other day, not to hunt the fallen. It is their duty to capture or kill the fallen. It is the Ravenwing's duty to hunt down the fallen and locate them, and then they call them the Deathwing. That was something I didn't know until the other day.
Yeah, so they are, and I took a look at this model. So I really like this sculpt, and I will be the first to admit that most of my fascination with starting with the Dark Angels was that I was like, man, I want to start at chapter one. And then I saw this model when they announced Indominus, and I was like, what business does a headsman have in the middle of a battle, right? This dude is wandering around with just a big old executioner's sword. Like, that is 100% a German executioner's great sword from, like, what, the 17th, 18th century or so? Like, the blunted end, all the rest of it. Like, it is classically not a battlefield weapon, right? This is
No,
to chop the heads off of dudes.
way too heavy to be practical on the battlefield. Unknown to most people. Swords, even great swords, not really that heavy. Heaviest great sword used in combat is like 12 pounds.
Right?
Any heavier than that, and you'd be too exhausted to really use it anymore. Um, and oddly enough, an anti-cavalry weapon is was what the greatsword was originally designed for. Was cavalry and pike. They discovered that it was good at pike because it was a heavy enough sword that could hack through the fat 30-foot long spear shaft. But yeah, there's definitely records of great swords cutting horses' legs off. There was one famous German mercenary guy. He was kind of like the original robber baron. Um, there is a tale, take it with a grain of salt, about him cutting a warhorse in half, or cutting the neck off of a warhorse, like decapitating it at the shoulders. And if you've ever seen a horse, that's about 4 feet of meat and bone.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that this model, while it looked super cool, did not make sense. Like, this is not a battlefield troop. This is not someone you send into combat with your frontline dudes, right? And then I
Nope.
thought, so what would you really use this guy for? And just so happens that, you know, the Emperor's First has this entire first company that is designed around the execution of essentially criminals. So in regular 40k universe, they are used to hunt down fallen angels. So during the Horus Heresy, uh, I part of the chapter fell to the ruinous powers. They murdered their own Primarch, Lionel Johnson, who, Adam, you've talked about him a couple of times. But,
Actually, they did not murder him.
well,
His fight with his best friend, his childhood best friend, is they fought so hard that they destroyed the Dark Angel's home planet. That is in a book. That is canon. That is a
Potato,
really bad fist fight.
potato, murder. It was murder.
Yeah,
At
it
any
was
rate,
murder.
yeah. But it's just one of
Mur
those
diddly
things.
erder.
Yeah, mur diddly erdler. So it's one of those things that because or because of that, the Deathwing dedicated themselves to eradicating their secret, their private shame. And I don't think that we're gonna stray too far from that. I think that it's kind of neat that there is maybe the fall to the ruinous powers part isn't something that we keep as we make up the lore for this guy, but like to me, the idea that there is, a secretly shamed chapter because they accidentally or on purposefully had a mutiny and murdered their own daddy, um, genetic daddy, not in all cases actual daddy, um, but they hunt down those who are responsible throughout time and history, and try and keep the secret so that everybody thinks they're good boys, and not terrible, awful fratriciders, patriciders.
Yeah, it'd be
Do you want to go
patricide
with
is the murder of
patricide?
your.
Because, like, okay,
I think
here's
fratricide is killing your brother or like
yeah,
a sibling.
exactly. And I mean, the idea behind 40K chapters is that they share a gene seed, so they are, related fraternally in the sense of like fraternal twins or those who are of a single, single origin of genetic material. I don't know. I've never looked that far into the lore to see exactly how the gene seed works when recruits or scouts are bumped up into Astartes, but it's one of those things that,
I do
yeah.
know the gene seed is an early implantation of one of their organs because it's kind of the one that like helps control all of them, and like
So,
very a lot of chapters have like you got to drink from like a creepy cup, and it's just weird.
well, creepy cup drinking has never been bad. But it's one of those things that I wasn't certain on how much genetic material they share at that point in time and whether that genetic material is inherited or whether it is cloned. Because if it's cloned, it's fratricide, right? Because you are sharing a good deal of your genetic material with somebody who is in a sibling peer group as opposed to somebody who is a progenitor peer group. So, or sorry, a progenitor, yeah, it would be a peer group still. So instead of getting your dad's DNA, you are getting essentially the same set of DNA to combine with your own. The difference, fraternal, paternal, or fraternal, or paternal. I don't know. We're getting deep into the weeds on this one, but it always interested me. Maybe somebody has got the answer for us in the comments. Somebody smarter and more in tune with the whole genetics thing than I am.
Tune with familial murder.
Yeah. So if you have a good understanding of the law of whatever country you're in, and there are strict laws about the difference between murdering a brother and a father, let us know in the comments. That would be something fun to read. I really want to read that. I'm really hoping that that shows up.
You know what? I kind of am too. Let's see. What do we got going here? We have no comment.
Well, at some point, I'm sure
At
that
some point. I
somewhere
mean,
this is going to
you can.
exist forever. This is YouTube, man. It's theirs now. So at some
Yeah.
point deep in the future, when you are watching this, dear viewer, please comment. Let future Adam and I know exactly whether the murdering a fellow space marine is patricide or fratricide, and whether killing your Primarch is patricide or fratricide, and if they're different. Oh man. Okay, so I'm continuing to just scrape away. I'm trying to keep, and this might be a mistake, but I am trying to keep that skull down there. So I'm just going to continue to work pretty delicately through this. And then what we'll do is I'm actually going to pull off of this shoulder pad. I'm actually going to pull this back part off. That's why I wasn't really concerned that there are big chips and stuff out of it. I can get that a little better on camera so you can see there's fairly large defects. And I'm just going slowly. This is a fresh number 10 blade that I put, or number 11 blade that I put on here just before stream went live. So, yeah, that's sort of what I'm working on.
And for those that don't have brand new fresh blades, GW does have a mold line remover that is surprisingly enough very, very handy. Not just for removing the pesky mold lines, but for fine work like this, like Steve is doing. If you don't feel quite as comfortable with a knife as Steve is, it makes me wonder. Um, it is a way more forgiving tool, I've found. Um,
Also, if you go in the description of the video right now, there's a link for this box of blades. These are number 11 blades. I'm pretty sure they're just made of garbage, if we're entirely honest, because they stay sharp for about half a model at a time. But it is like $8. I think it's no, I think the one that I put it in the description is like $21 for 150 blades. So feel free to just keep throwing them out because who cares? It's not. If you have the ability, go on Amazon. You can also go on eBay or lots of other places on the internet. Just don't pick them up at your local hobby store, and they're surprisingly cheap and work out pretty well. So that is my tip. As much as I love our local hobby store, we are in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, so I typically go to the Sentry Box. As much as I love those guys, $5 for 5 blades seems like a waste when I can get a lot more on the internet for much cheaper.
that
But
is very true.
Adam is entirely correct. That mold line scraper, especially if you're new to the hobby, oh man, it is it is so much nicer than having to scrape these with the knife, especially if you're, not experienced. I've been making scale models for a long time now, and I only stab myself once a year in a way that I am concerned about.
Yeah, like if you do it enough, you will eventually get like a weird knife callus, usually on your thumbs. Um, it's pretty handy.
Are you judging my knife callus?
No, I'm admiring your knife callus because it's been a little bit since I've actually customized someone. I guess the last people I customized were my flesh tears.
That's fair.
A lot, but I used a hobby saw for that too. Like just I mean, it was a hobby saw blade that a buddy gave to me, so it was a little dull, but I mean, it was better than trying to hack through an arm with an X-Acto knife because that's gone horribly awry, and not just by stabbing myself, by ruining an entire arm, and it's usually gonna happen on the one arm that's the only one in the entire box. So to get that arm again, I'd have to spend like another $80 on 10 dudes, and
And this
that's
Yeah, that is always the risk you run with any of this stuff. Like, um, I am using bits not just from my own collection, but I do actually frequent both eBay and a bunch of online bits sites so that I can. I set myself, I guess, I set myself a special goal that I didn't want to 3D print full models. I'm okay with 3D printed parts, but there are a lot of really cool 3D modelers out there, and man, I support the work that you are doing, but I did not want to just go and buy a Smash Captain off of any of the 3D printing sites. They're out there. You can find them. There are lots of them that are super inexpensive. I'm not going to tell you what to look for because GW is out there all the time, watching, waiting, trying to get that stuff taken back off the internet. But if you happen to find them, you can go and find bits like this dude's head. I went and found an STL file for this. I could have printed off his full body. There is somebody who has gone out there and essentially remodeled. Well, we can talk about them a little bit. Have you read about the Deathwing companion? Excuse me, the Deathwing companions in 30K, Adam?
I a little bit. There were
So
one unit I'd never read a bunch about. I read a lot about the knights.
yeah, and that's the thing is that these Deathwing companions, so the series of models actually called the Deathwing companions are available on Forge World. We're not supported by that stuff, so we're just fans, I guess. At any rate, you can go onto Forge World and see them if you're interested in finding them, or a little bit later on when we're talking about this sort of stuff again, you can go find them. But um, they were a unit that was set out of basically nothing. So there was no lore surrounding them or anything. They were just sprung on the world at the end of 2019. It hit the streets, I believe, in November 2019. And there is no lore for them. There is lore for, as you mentioned, the knights, but
Yeah.
the little bit of lore, and by little bit I mean literally the product description on Forge World says that they are regular members of the Deathwing, or sorry, of not of the Deathwing, regular members from other parts of the Dark Angels who, in service of their superiors, were injured in such a way as to be meritorious. So I'm essentially going back to jumped in front of a bullet. Sounds about right, yeah?
Yep.
So they jumped in front of a bullet to save a sergeant or a lieutenant or whoever, librarian, probably not an apothecary, but yeah, so they saved them, and then rather than making them into full-on badass Terminator, or Deathwing, they get to paint a part of their armor in white. So they get to choose the segment of the armor that gets painted in white, but it can be their helm, it can be an arm, it can be whatever part of them, but they do actually get to take the bone white armor, which is pretty cool. So they are otherwise tasked, once they are brought into the Deathwing companions, they are tasked forevermore with protecting their superiors because they've proven themselves proficient in some other way in protecting their superiors. So yeah, then the Deathwing companions just get to hang out with a bunch of Deathwing Terminators and the Deathwing Command Squad, which again are Terminators. And they all get to hang out being Terminators together, except for the Deathwing Commandos, who are still just wandering around in Mark IV armor, Mark IV power armor. So
Yeah. And like one interesting thing I found out about them, the Dark Angels, is that in 40K, um, you could go your entire lifetime as a Dark Angel and never be brought into a position to learn about the Dark Secret.
oh yeah,
Like you,
that is
once,
that is an honor and a privilege.
yeah, that is the inner circle. They are the shadiest of the shadies. Like they are so shady, they make nighttime look like daytime.
Wow.
They are not nice dudes, by any sense of the word. Like, hey, you might have slightly overheard something, but I'm probably only 3% sure that you heard it. I'm gonna kill you and your entire family anyway, just to cover my bases. They
Well,
are full believers in to keep a secret between 3 people, 2 of them have to be dead.
that seems about right. Like now that I check the math on it, yeah, that seems about right. Hang on, do you know any secrets about me?
Um,
I'm going to take your silence
no.
as a considered no.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, there's your banana allergy, but you talk pretty openly about that because it is pretty severe.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no bananas.
I do know you were in a ska band, but I can never recall the name.
And you never will.
Yeah, I did know it at one point, and I did make a point of finding songs on YouTube.
Hey, let's never talk about this again.
Yes, we will not. People will just be left to wonder.
Listen, I have no shame, but I have a little shame. So, you know,
Yeah,
come
you
on. There
know,
are 4 people on the internet who are currently watching us have this argument.
yeah, like I will not push that. I was also
Hey,
in
you were in a
a
metal band, and I have seen that YouTube video.
the fireworks one.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that was dumb. I puked during that set. That was stupid. Hey kids, little PSA. Don't set off fireworks in small enclosed spaces, then breathe in all the noxious smoke. It's really bad for you, and you will probably puke and hate your life.
The more you know.
Yeah. Let's see, what other cool little tidbits here? Kind of gone through most of what I've written down. Um, a lot of what I read was about the 30K because 40K.
Hey, that's all right. let's talk about how we can improve this guy's life. So I talked a little bit about why I wanted to take this model in particular to make the most dark angeliest dark angel that ever darked an angel. I wanted to do the first company, so we're talking. That's why we're talking so much about the Deathwing and ignoring the Ravenwing entirely. Even though, and I will say this out loud, the Ravenwing might be cooler than the Deathwing, but
I love the Ravenwing for the fact that they still use the original Legion paint scheme, where it's the super like dark blacky blue with the red iconography on themselves.
yeah, man.
Um, and I do love me some chainsword wielding guys with jetpacks on their backs. I think assault marines are fully amazing.
Hey, man, you and Ninth Edition agree, or 8th Edition, the end of 8th Edition, as that
Yeah,
Smash Captain became just absolutely invaluable
yeah.
towards the end of 8th. I don't know how it's doing in Ninth. I don't pay much attention to the meta. Little dark secret, I've never played a game of 40k. We have played plenty of games of Kill Team. That is about the size and length of game I can handle, but I will play a game of 40k at some point. I have 1,200 points of Necron painted, and then I decided to take on other projects because I don't know, it was taking too long to get more Necrons, so I just like bailed and was like, forget it. I want flayed ones and they aren't out yet. And I refuse to pay $180 to GW for 5 Necrons and Technomancer. So we're in something of a pickle there.
That is a little bit of pickle. I understand. Like I have essentially the same point value of a force in Primaris. Pretty much actually all the Indominus box, because I did convert my old box of intercessors into Blade Guard and Assault Intercessors before they were released. And Steve,
Yep.
guess what time it is?
Oh man, is it time for my favorite thing?
It is time for the news.
It's time for the news. Give me 1 second, and why don't you introduce our first topic for the news? What you got for us this week, Adam?
All right, this week, if you scroll down to the news links, would be Slave 2 Gaming. I'm going to assume that they named that after Boba Fett's second ship.
So I
Oh,
apologize for that. Yeah, that sucks.
that
We
is
will figure that out.
not okay.
How about now?
Oh,
Just we've got friends who are messaging us. Thank you, dear viewers. You are missing the news. I apologize. You can see the top of my head. Everything is going badly. We're back.
yeah, I could hear Steve and he could hear me, but
We
no
just
one could
talked to
hear
each
us.
other the whole time. I see you in chat now, Wall and V. Thank you guys very much. Can you hear us now? You are getting some sound. What amount of sound would you say you are getting on a scale of
Like,
0
enough
to all of it?
listen, or
All
see,
right. Well, we continue. Ooh, getting some sound. Okay. Well, we're
getting
going to
some
keep on
sound.
keeping on.
Some sound is better than no sound.
Yeah, because it definitely says we're outputting sound to the stream. So let
Yeah.
us know. Okay, works. Thanks, Nala. All right.
Yes.
Cool. We will figure out why it decided to stop giving you guys sound during the news. But for now, we are back. I am continuing to just fit. So we're going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing with the model here. So obviously we talked about one part of it. We're going to replace that shoulder pad with the other shoulder pad and fix up the iconography so that he is definitely a Deathwing as opposed to just a rando. The other thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to get rid of his Temporister? I can't remember. It's something to do with time and in fake Latin.
The Tempestor?
Sure, maybe.
I guess technically it would be Imperial High Gothic, which is really bad fake Latin.
On my phone, it is lagging even with Wi-Fi. Lagging how? As in, like, it's behind the stream, or lagging as in it's... Yeah, we know you guys miss the news, and I apologize. We will get to the news. So good news is that we have many opportunities to do this. So don't worry, we will return to how Adam exists inside of one of our favorite sci-fi universes. Um, Thank you guys.
Yes, we will also hopefully figure out why our stream is cutting out the sound when it tells us it's not. But I always enjoy chatting with Steve about random sci-fi nerdiness because I have a few people only to do that with, and my girlfriend does not like listening to me natter on about stuff she has no idea what I'm talking about for
Listen,
hours.
we all have partners in those ways. The people in our lives who want to engage us in our nerdiness, and Adam, you are that man to me. So
I
uh,
love being a nerd.
that's fair. So wait, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I
Yeah.
am also going to replace our little hourglass. We're just going to call it an hourglass because this is literally the last time we'll see it. We're going to replace this hourglass with a way cooler warrant or page of a book or some sort of text. Because if I know anything about Dark Angels, it's that they like having pieces of paper in their hands instead of giant weird hourglasses that don't make any sense, and the only thing that they actually do is make it so that the person they're fighting has to go last. It's weird.
Yes.
It
I mean,
happened when you brought up the news. Just FYI. Yeah. Okay.
okay.
No, that's
Huh.
fine. It probably just cut out because I didn't bring across the audio link for news. So all good.
Huh.
Thank you guys for helping us troubleshoot. That's super cool.
Yes.
Because in the hours and hours that I've done this in practice, I definitely at no point in time went back and rewatched the streams. So that's good. That's good feedback. Thank you guys. The other thing that I want to do is I want to scrape off some of the iconography on here. Some of the skull iconography it's really Inquisition and not, not necessarily what we're going for with the Dark Angel. So I'm gonna cut some more pieces off. Adam,
Yes.
you got any more lore for me, buddy?
I do actually, kind of specifically about the model you're working on. It is very new lore because it is just a newly added unit. They are a part of, and this actually bit of lore makes this model kind of perfect for the exact reason we're building him for,
Yeah.
as like not just a member of the Deathwing, but he's a Judicar, which are members of the chaplains, and the Dark Angels have a very specific rank within their chaplains called the Interrogator Chaplain that make
Oh, that doesn't sound ominous or bad at all.
no, their whole purpose of being is to get a confession, repentance from the fallen. That is their jam, that's their mojo. That's what gets them up in the morning.
So that's why this guy's carrying around a big F-off sword, eh?
Yeah, he is the Judicar's role, as I understand it, within the chaplainry, is the executioner. They are judge, jury, and executioner, with imperial writ.
Oh, well, that totally works out. You know, in a gang of guys who are standing around looking for an excuse to do some murder with their big bugger off sword, that they would just have a dude who's entirely focused on that. That's great. That's great. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure everybody confesses under those conditions.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I would. I mean, I don't as a long
Listen,
time
I
fan
will
of
confess
40K.
under almost any reason. So I may not be I did it. It was me. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. Yeah.
I did the unspeakable thing. It was me.
I am tangentially responsible for our genetic daddy being no longer alive.
Yes. And all because I felt left out because he left me at home.
Well,
That is that is the in canon reason they were butthurt that they got left behind and didn't get to have all the fun wars.
Well, maybe that's another thing that we take some time to address instead of, just doing whatever. Maybe we figure out a better reason for the Fallen to have some grievances, because it's not like Lionel Johnson was perfect, was he?
No, he was pretty stubborn, pig-headed. Though was considered one of the loyal or like the unwavering four. I can't remember their name, but it's basically a
This sounds like something
Robo.
that Rowboat Girly Man is going to be involved with.
Yeah, I was actually about to
Robute
say it.
Gulliman?
Gu-
Gulliman?
Guliman,
Guliman?
Robote Guliman, I believe, is what I've heard on games. But I mean, every time he's mentioned in a different Warhammer game, it is pronounced slightly differently or with the thickest of English accents.
Then I'm going to go with
Um,
Rowboat Girly Man.
yes. Um, yeah, Lionel Johnson is one of the whatever like most loyal sons, like essentially like one of the Primarchs that would have done absolutely anything Big Daddy Amps asked. And they did with righteous zealousness, even though that is not canonically or grammatically correct for the Imperial Truth timeline.
Okay.
But the other Primarchs were um
Gonna go with Rowboat.
no, actually he did not include himself in the list.
Oh. Imperial Fist Dude.
It was Rogel Dorn,
Okay.
Lehman Russ, of course, the Emperor's executioner and loyal hand dog, and then Sanguinus of the Blood Angels.
He was beautiful though.
He was, from the words of Horus himself, he is the best, and then promptly breaks his spine on his knee. But that is a
That's fair.
story for another time.
We will eventually get to do the Luna Wolves, and I am excited for the Luna Wolves slash Horus, sorry,
Sons of Horus.
Sons of Horus. But I'm also trying to do the most needly work here at the same time. Just working a
Like,
file in between knuckles so that I can knock down some ridges on his hand, and then we're going to give him parchment. We'll give him a writ of some sort. We can decide what that writ is at some point, I guess. Figure out why exactly he's presenting it to the Fallen.
Oh, a fun tidbit for those not in the know on 40K. But Space Marine chaplains not only are they the guardians of Imperial faith and the moral guiding post of their chapter brothers. Kind of makes you wonder why they're called interrogator chaplains. Don't really want to go through that recruitment process. But the chaplains wear what is called a rosarius, another bad Latin name for a fancy rosary.
Huh.
It is
Does
usually
it
it
look
looks
a
like a
little something like that, man? Like just a little something like those beads that are all around this dude's.
yep,
Huh.
yeah, pretty
Weird.
close with the
Okay.
the big overdone Maltese cross on the bottom
Yeah.
or iron cross. Um, Yeah, it is oddly enough also a shield generator, but it's one of those weird 40K shields that the more powerful the attack, the more likely it's actually going to activate.
Okay.
So it's not always on because that would be a massive power drain. And I mean, these dudes are only wearing like a small thermonuclear power facility on their backs. It's fine. It's okay.
That makes
Um,
sense. I mean, everybody's got just a nuke, right?
yeah,
They're basically so.
I think
Wait, hang
it
on.
might be
Wait a
like
minute.
not
Are we
nuclear. I think
talking
it's like
like proton pack in Ghostbusters nuclear reactor, or are we talking like Fukushima?
think more. I guess it's a like a small fission device. So, I think
Okay, so we're
more
closer
like
to. We are definitely closer to Fukushima than we are to. Uh,
yeah,
than we are to Ghostbusters proton accelerator.
yes.
Okay.
There's actually a Keanu Reeves movie that's kind of like what would happen if you detonated a power pack. It wouldn't be quite as extravagant because it's much smaller. But where I was going with this whole triad about the chaplains and the rosaries is that
Yeah.
the beads on the chaplains are typically white. Um, but the interrogator chaplains replace a white bead with a black bead for every fallen they confess.
Huh. Is
Uh,
confess in quotation marks?
no, actually, it is not. That is, from what I have read a
Shocking.
couple. Um, I do have an embarrassing amount of early to late '90s Black Library 40K fiction compilations where it's just a collection of short stories. Most of them are terrible.
There's
But
no such thing as an embarrassing amount of that.
yeah, that is true. There's only bookshelves and bookshelves of them. But there's one that I'm thinking of now was actually about a newly inducted interrogator chaplain, just brought into the inner circle, gets to know all the fun, dirty little secrets, where all the skeletons are buried and who has the most dirty laundry. Sidebar, it's them.
Huh. Okay.
Um, and it's all about his journey to um, get confessing a fallen angel, finding out the location of Luther's sword. Yes, that Luther, the
Yeah.
guy we haven't named yet, the one who fought Lionel Johnson to the point where they both broke the planet and kinda died.
Ah,
Actually,
yes.
though Lionel Johnson's actually in stasis and is not technically dead within the Dark Angels chapter monastery and overall gigantic Death Star of a base, the Rock,
Oh boy.
whose actual name origin we will not mention because it is just kind of ridiculous.
It's not that ridiculous.
I mean, okay, it's not ridiculous.
It's not
It's just
ridiculous for 40K, man. Like, let's be
it,
serious.
okay, yeah, that is true. There's space Vikings that are also werewolves
Whoa,
and
whoa,
amazing.
whoa. Not all of them are werewolves. Only the wolfen.
Yeah, that they all have the potential to be
Oh, and
werewolves.
apparently the ninth edition retcon of an 8th edition, which is the Space Wolf successor chapters that briefly existed, they all died because they turned into the wolfen. Just we'll have to peel off that band-aid in a larger way in the future. But for right
Yes.
now, yeah, all
In
gone. No
five,
more Space Wolf successor chapters. How briefly we knew ye.
yep, they tried it once, it didn't work. Why, oh, why did they think it would work again?
Oh, because Rowboat wanted to give them all Primaris crap, and the current chapter master, whose name I'm forgetting, was like, no. And so he was like, well, fine, I'll make my own space wolves. And then he tried, and they all turned into the wolfen. And he was like, oops, that did not go well.
Though it
We
was
made a bunch of mistakes here, just a lot.
that is one of the kind of sad part of that story. This is definitely an offshoot from the Dark Angels, as it is their friendly rivals,
Yeah,
unfriendly rivals. Well, I'll actually get a little bit into that right now, or in a bit.
sure.
But the Primaris Space Wolves were just accepted by the Firstborn Space Wolves as brothers and packmates. And then, hey, Curse of the Wolf Inn.
Good.
Now you're just our bad dogs we keep in the basement.
Let's not let's let's just not talk about the fact that sometimes when we receive the gene seed we and become genetic super soldiers, that sometimes it definitely turns us into werewolves. It's fine. That's not a
Yeah,
problem. We just
yeah,
don't. If we don't talk about it, it'll go away on its own.
yeah, that's true. I mean, kind of the super emo boys, the Raven Guard might have something to say about that, because surprise, surprise, shocker, they also have a secret.
Listen, we're gonna find out real soon in this series that everybody has a deep dark secret that they like to keep way down deep inside. That then they turn into an awesome part of their chapter that they just display in front of everybody and are like, "What do you mean this is a problem? How do you know about the fallen angels? How do you know about the wolfen?
Yes.
Is it because we dedicate entire companies to? No, that can't be it. You're the one who's wrong."
No, you just battle man. You did not see werewolf space marines. That's not real. Werewolf space marines can't hurt you. Meanwhile, the wolfen are ripping your family apart.
Yeah.
But
Well, that makes
we,
sense.
we digress away from the Dark Angels to arguably the greatest Space Marine chapter of the Space Wolves, but we will get there in 6 other miniatures.
Ooh, I'm excited.
But what I alluded to earlier about how the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves are friendly, not so friendly rivals is that at one point their chapter or their Primarchs got into a fist fight because Lionel Johnson killed a guy who insulted Lehman Russ, and that Lehman Russ swore an oath to kill that guy in personal combat, and Lionel Johnson just kind of teleported into that guy's throne room and killed him there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, why
So,
do we have to go through the warp if we can teleport?
because when they teleport, they go through the warp.
Oh, okay. So there's
Yeah.
there's no going around the warp. Gotcha.
There is, just not for humans. Magnus kind of messed that up. Thanks. We were going to have a human webway, so we didn't have to rely on the warp, and then could wage war on the warp. That was the Emperor's plan. It would have been great, but no.
Well, maybe if his dad had treated him better, he wouldn't have fucked it up for everyone else.
Yeah, that is true.
I
That is
apologize
true.
for dropping that F-bomb.
Uh,
We digress.
Yes. So they got in a big fist fight. It lasted forever, and then, as the story goes, Lehman Rust realized how ridiculous he was being and started laughing and thought the whole thing was just stupid and funny and a big misunderstanding. And Lionel Johnson took this to be that Lehman Rust was laughing at him to his face in front of his legion and making a poo-poo head of him. So he cold cocked Lehman Rust, knocked him out for what I think was like a week. And then since then, whenever the 2 chapters have met, have been in the same campaigns together, they, like all Space Marines, waste time doing silly little rituals while the Imperial Guard are being slaughtered by the millions. And it
Well,
would be each force selects a champion to represent their chapter
okay.
and have a duel. It's usually to first blood. Deaths have been known to occur, though they haven't in what I understand to be like the last 10 times it's happened, 4 of which have been fought by Ragnar Blackmane, and 4 of which he has won, because that is a very, very, very scary barbarian man in power armor. But he's also the one that has begun mending the rift.
Ooh, so they might be friends again one day.
Yes, and he was let in on something that even members of the Dark Angels don't know, that they have a dirty secret.
So, to sort of explain the process, um, Dark Angels themselves, the rank and file of the Dark Angels chapter, are never actually told about the fallen angels. They are told how their Primarch died, only that he is not alive currently in the like strictest sense of the word. That he may have met some unfortunate fate in the past. No way of knowing. At any rate, he is out there and definitely not around here. So, regular rank and file don't know that Lionel Johnson, the Primarch, is not around. They are.
But he is around.
Oh, definitely. But he's also not around right now, right here. At any rate, at some point in time, they will do something for the chapter. So they will either be promoted from veteran status or they will be adopted into the first company. And part of the ritual of adoption into the first company is you are brought into the Deathwing and you are introduced to the first fable of the Deathwing / of the Dark Angels. So this like first fable is basically like spelling the beans, not on everything about the Fallen, but that they actually exist. So this is the first time as a Space Marine who has served his entire life in war that you get to find out that some of your brothers may have been responsible for killing your daddy. Seems bad.
Yeah, that is true. And even if you're in the Deathwing, they might not tell you all of the secrets because
Oh no.
there's always more secrets.
So when I was reading the lore on this, I remember that there were 4 fables that everybody is introduced to eventually. If you survive for long enough, as a member of the Deathwing, you eventually will find out 4 fables of the chapter. Now, there are more secrets. The chaplains, the librarians, the all of the chapter master, like the chapter master and command squad of the Deathwing get to know more of those things. And then actually, this is my probably favorite part of the of Deathwing lore, is that the Deathwing themselves also spawn the successor chapters, right? So it's not necessarily all of the Dark Angels that spawn the successors. It's actually specifically out of the Deathwing. Do you remember who? So there's the Angels of Vengeance. Who else do we have for successors?
Oh man, there's actually quite an extensive list. The Angels of Absolution, the Angels of Defiance, the aforementioned Angels of Redemption, the Angels of Vengeance, the Angels of Vigilance, rumored, who knows, it's 40k, the Angels of Wrath, Blades of Vengeance, um, the
I've
Cowl Wardens. That is okay.
So, as weird as this sounds, there is not weird at all, actually. As cool as this sounds, and as much as I am envious, there is a guy on Instagram, and we will feature him at one point in the future. But there is somebody who is now, I want to say, about 200 legions into, or sorry, 200 chapters into paint all of the chapters. One infantry, all of them in the same pose. All of them are Primaris intercessors. One of each chapter. Every successor, every rumored chapter, everybody that has a canonical paint job according to lore, he is going to paint one of every one of them, and he is about 200 deep now. So I think he is well into Ultramarine successors, but I could be wrong.
That is a lot because, like, the Ultramarines, as far as I know, have like like he's probably gonna have to do at least another like 200 or 300 of just Ultramarine successor chapters.
Yeah,
There's
we will
so
get
many.
to see his stuff at some point when we feature it on the stream, but it is definitely going to happen. So just to give you guys a little bit of an update, I'm just trying to shape our shoulder pads so that I still get that line around the bottom. I still want that silhouette at the bottom there to be fairly intact, but I also am trying to get it so that I get a nice line there with our little shoulder, or our new shoulder pad. Instead of the sunburst pattern, we're going with a nice sculpted one, and then we're also going to change the sculpt on there. Continue.
So like see some fun Dark Angels tidbits. Oh, if you're wondering where I'm getting like all of my information, there's a really good YouTube channel for 40k lore. He has really cool videos. I watched the Dark Angels one twice last night. I
Nice.
actually think I fell asleep listening to it for a bit, which is I get up at like 4:30 in the morning for work, so I go to bed at like elderly people times. But he's Oculus Imperia.
Yep.
Um, he has so many cool videos, but I also use Warhammer 40k.fandom.com. It is a
Nice.
fan-made wiki, but the stuff is it is very in depth. Like I have spent like uh an unreasonable amount of time like reading entire pages, and it does have like it is endless scroll, so that's kind of an for this kind of like lore dump, it's a little heavy. But they cover everything. Um, and then I also use my personal favorite and the one I actually gathered most of my uh, Warhammer 40k and 30k and Unification War era knowledge is Lexicanum.
Nice. I love
Uh,
Lexicana.
Lexicanum is it's magnificent. Just a little history about me and Warhammer. I've loved Warhammer since I was 12. Still never played a full game of Warhammer. Don't judge.
Hey,
But
we got my shame out of the way early about me never playing a
that's
game.
true.
So
That's true. Um, and because of the small town I lived in and the distance from the two major cities in our province, that being Calgary and Edmonton. It's actually called Edmonton, but those of us in Alberta call it Edmonton because it's an evil, evil place no one should ever go to. Are the only places where at the time I could get Warhammer stuff, and it is and has been for a while. Is They are fairly expensive miniatures. Um, Still some of the best miniatures I've ever come across.
Oh yeah.
So the price is kind of worth it. There are times where it's not. I just avoid those purchases sometimes, not all the time, less than I would like to admit. Um, but because of my just how hard it was for me to actually get my hands on physical minis, and no one else I knew even knew what Warhammer was. Um, I would sit on my parents' computer for until the wee hours of the morning, and when my dad would go to work and tell me to go to bed, and I better not be sleeping at noon when he comes home, reading Lexicanum and reading everything on Lexicanum.
See, that's the thing. That's why I love this age of the internet we find ourselves in. Uh, I grew up with friends who are not much of nerds, not at least not in the way that I am a nerd. We all have our nerdy things that we enjoy, so it's nice that I did eventually find some D&D nerd friends, and that's where I spent most of my ill-spent youth was D&D and marching band. But yeah, we're out here now. If you guys want to share how you got into Warhammer, how you got into modeling, period. This is a really great time for you to shout it out. Let us know how you came to this particular hobby, or how you found your nerddom. Right, like everybody's got something that they're a little bit nerdy about, or really enjoy, and it may not be the most popular thing like Warhammer was when we were growing up, or in my case, Dungeons and Dragons when we were growing up. So, you know, let us know how you came to the hobby. Let us know, where your community's at, because I always find those sorts of origin stories interesting. Um,
Everyone does love a good origin story. That's why we have two different two Spider-Man ones told in slightly different manners, and so many Batman ones. So much Batman.
well, come on, we got lots of Spider-Man ones. Like if we talk about comic books, which is where my Spider fandom lies still for the most part. Like I love the movies, but I was a kid of the '90s and grew up in the Venom and Carnage becoming a thing age.
Yes, the Venom
It
and
was,
Carnage era was fantastic. I wish I still had a lot of those. I
yeah,
definitely traded them away
that's fair.
for silly trades. Like I have pretty much all of the 1990, like 90 from 1990 to 95 runs of the X-Men.
Nice.
I don't I can't say I've read any of them in the last 15 years, but I have them.
Hey, if somebody wants
Yeah.
to come rob my house, there's about $3,000 worth of Deadpool comics here in a variety of mint condition, like very good to near mints. So one of them is signed by Rob Liefeld. If you want, uh, don't come and rob my house. As a matter of fact, I regret saying that on the internet. This is not an invitation. Do not commit robbery. It's not the coolest of crimes.
Yes. And while you're at, not Robin Steve's house, you can please stay away from my collection of the complete runs of both versions of Exo Manowar,
Yeah,
because
also fair.
I love that comic. And it surprisingly enough didn't take me very long to get all of them. I think it took me like maybe a full year to start collecting, from having like one random one, like issue like 53, to going to a couple comic shops. I think Phoenix Comics, and I can't remember the one down in Kensington, and just being
Red
like,
Skull.
"Hey, Red Skull, yes, I like Red Skull. They have,
They were my first comic shop.
yeah, they were my first big city comic shop."
Nice. Um,
Um,
oh, continue.
and then Comic Con. I am notorious for spending a minimum amount of hundreds of dollars on just comics,
Hey, that's
and
fair.
sometimes the sword or an axe.
Listen,
It
I could never imagine you running around with a sword or an axe. That seems completely out of character, and definitely
Yes.
not like something that you would definitely 100% do. So,
Yeah. I have never shouted a blood-curdling battle cry at
Oh man,
1:30 in the
man,
morning
you are giving it
after.
away. You are giving it away for nothing, my friend. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Uh,
So,
it
just to
is.
bring you up to date with what I'm still working here on the model, I'm now starting to go through and smooth out some of these joints. I am going to use plastic glue basically to seal this stuff up, but I do want to get it close before I start going there. I do also have a whole bunch of sprue goo. If you are interested in how to manufacture sprue goo, it is take a bunch of sprues, put it in some old glue, and wait until that sprue has died. If you want, or that has melted rather, if you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to do it, I know Vincent Venturella and so at Hobby Cheating or Hobby Cheating on YouTube, or Miniac Scott, both have videos I think where they explain it. Maybe Scott doesn't actually have a video. Maybe they just talk about it in one of their podcasts. But those are places you can go to get more information about how to actually do it. When it's done right, it's thick and goopy and still melty. But yeah, you just dump a bunch of old sprue bits. So like all of this stuff that's all over my board now, all that stuff goes into an old pot of, and now I have a cool gap filler. Sorry, this is just to me an extra thin. Again, there's a description in the link if you were looking for the glues and stuff that we use. Oh,
Having the right glue is very important. That's where I'm stuck at right now. All of my glues are old and the wrong kinds for what I'm working on currently.
yeah, there is nothing worse than trying to use either plastic glue for things that are not plastic or super glue for just bad things. Okay. Apparently, I should turn my volume up. Thank you for the advice, Fee.
Oh, nice.
Also, yeah, that battle cry was super fun.
Yes,
Okay,
it was.
yeah,
Um,
we will get into the story of that battle cry in a very very soon video. That is something we will definitely do. So hang on here. We will turn me up a little bit
pork
in the
belly.
mix, and we will.
Um, it is also, Steve,
Yeah.
time for a little competition.
Oh boy, can we go and take a break first, and then we'll come back and do our
Yes, we can.
competition? All right, everybody, we are going to take a fiver here. We will put the stream just hang out. We're going to go to a little bit of an intermission here. I promise we will be back very soon. We will continue working on our
Refill
Dark
your
Angel
snacks.
tonight. Refill your snacks. Use the washroom. Go pet your dog. And if you don't have a dog, go find a dog to pet because dogs are phenomenal. All right, we'll
Yeah.
be back in just a few, everybody. Hey, everybody, and we're back. Welcome
Yes,
back from the
we
break. I
are.
hope that you guys found all sorts of cool things on the internet while we were gone. Adam, I'm going to
Yo.
spend a little bit talking about the iconography for the Deathwing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So, the Deathwing are our favorite Dark Angels. So, the Dark Angels, obviously, their regular iconography is angel wings and and the sword. So we have a couple of different bits here. We've got some angel wings on that guy. We got the sword there. We even have a raven wing bit because I was just buying all the bits off the internet because, you know, that's what we do. So we got the little raven wing. So,
Personally really like the Raven Wing icon.
oh
I
yeah.
think it's real neat. Might be a little Star Trek Romulan bias on my side because it is the Raptor's wing.
Weren't the Romulans just the coolest? I mean, the Federation's the coolest. At any rate,
No, I don't own Klingon badges at all. No, I do not.
hey, I have at no point in my life owned more than one TNG uniform at a time. At any rate, so the actual iconography, though, for our friend here, the Deathwing, is the broken sword. So we've got a big, giant, stupid sword that has absolutely no use other than executing people. And we have this nice full sword here that is all swordy and full. Now, the actual Deathwing symbol is the broken sword. So it is a sword with a slash pattern through it. It's got basically a lightning bolt through the middle of it to represent those who sever their unfortunate brethren from the chapter. And so we're going to reproduce that in as many ways as we can on this little model. Now, obviously, we don't have all sorts of space, but we do have this gigantic sword here and this shoulder pad that we're gonna edit both of these so that they've got them on there, right? So it's just one of those things. We're gonna take a look at how all this is fitting together, make sure that we're liking how these pieces fit, and we're pretty close actually. I'm surprised and satisfied with where we're going with this. So that is one of those things. Maybe I can give a little bit better view here on stream, but we can see that is starting to work out in a way that I find to be quite fabulous. So we're gonna roll with this. It is always nice when a plan comes together. So
it is very nice. Like, I've never had any luck mounting stuff like that onto any of my Space Marines ever, and I have tried many times.
So we're gonna get up nice and close to the camera here. And to do this is a little bit of a trick. So I'm eventually gonna do this with actually with files. But in order to start this shape, I'm actually going to go in with my X-Acto here, and using the point, I'm going to lightly trace the parts of it that I'm eventually going to be widening off with my file set. So you can see over here, this is normally going to be my painting palette, but for tonight it is the rack of tools that I use. We're just gently and carefully marking in that lightning bolt pattern. Now, is this perfect? No. No, of course not. Is it very close? I hope so. Adam, how are we looking? Do you think we're getting closer to that Dark Angel Deathwing iconography here?
Yeah, from what I can see, yes. I mean, it's essentially just going to be kind of two little cuts to break the blade up to symbolize the break in faith.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that our little friends, the Dark Angels, in actual 40k / the end of 30k lore, like we're talking Horus Heresy times, what were the Dark Angels up to? Were they doing fun things, or were they maybe somewhere being left out of combat?
They were in combat. They were, because not all Traitor Legions did lay siege to Terra. The Iron Warriors weren't there. The Night Lords weren't there. The Word Bearers weren't there.
Were the Alpha Legion there? Was Alfarius around?
No.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Patently false.
Yes.
The Alpha Legion is everywhere. Everyone is Alfarius.
I am Alfarius.
I am also Alfarius.
Yep.
Anyway, our digression aside.
Essentially, during the time of the Horus Heresy, like, it was. I haven't read all of the Horus Heresy books, where a lot of.
They're not worth it.
I actually enjoyed the ones I read.
Listen, I got through the third book, and yep. Continue.
But from what I understand, the Horus basically ordered the Traitor Legions that weren't laying siege to delay, as like a blocking force, sort of like a very, very loosely independent blocking force, where it's like, hey, you can't make it, do whatever you can to stop other people from making it too. That's why, oddly enough, despite the kind of rivalry between the two legions at the time, the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves were fighting together to reach Terra. I believe that was against the Iron Warriors. I am not wholly sure.
Hey,
there's not
people
really
who know more about the lore can hit us up in the comments.
Yeah. Sadly enough, outside of like maybe a brief paragraph in the epic page that is the Warhammer 40k fandom and Lexicanum, there is a small paragraph about, hey, what they were doing during the Horus Heresy. Because if you weren't at the Siege of Terra, No one cared anyway.
Well, that's a little sad, but continue.
It is sad. Um, but I believe it was either the Night Lords or the Iron Warriors. I can't quite remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
But they were fighting their way towards Terra, and actually, what broke the siege of Terra was the fact that through the warp, um, not Horus, because at that point he was dead. But I believe Abaddon and some of the other Primarchs, I'm gonna probably lean towards Magnus being the super one-eyed psychic man he was. Felt ripples in the warp, like massive ripples, like fleet-sized ripples, and it was the combined Legion fleets, so tens of thousands of like for the time new battle cruisers, some of which are still in the fight in 40K.
Wow.
11,000 years later, still fighting, full of so many millions of corpses.
That seems like too many corpses. If I'm
Yeah,
honest, that seems like too many corpses. Like too many.
like it's a few too many. I agree with that. But the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves, despite their differences, teamed up and spearheaded towards Terra, and that and the Ultramarines beating back the Word Bearers in the Ultramar sector, um, and making for Terra, and then rumors that the kind of the three Shattered Legions, the Salamanders, the Iron Hands, and the Raven Guard, had reconstituted their forces and were raiding the Traitor Legion's supply lines and back end. Because despite them being allied with Chaos, you still need a logistics train, especially when you're brand new and you don't really trust your new boss.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I'm
Um,
not sure that I would trust the ruinous powers. So,
yeah,
just as a
and
little bit of a change in lore, because part of what happens during the heresy is obviously brother betraying brother within the chapter, and we end up with the Deathwing being this cult of dudes who now go around murdering anybody who might even think that they know anything about the fallen, um, or sorry, the fallen angels. Um, just for our purposes, no one else fell. No one else falls to the ruinous powers. How do we feel about some dark angels falling to the ruinous powers? Does that seem like a Deus Ex Machina thing, or is it better to say that there is some sort of actual grievance between the Chapter Brothers and Lionel Johnson, or how are we feeling about this? Because I have a feeling that's going to change how we decorate our little base here.
that is true. Like I am always a fan of the Fallen. Cypher, I find the Head Fallen, which oddly enough is not his name, but actually his title within the 30K Dark Angels Legion. He held the title of Cypher, which is essentially like the keeper of all of the secrets. Like he knows where Lionel Johnson's bodies are buried.
Neat.
Um, he has like I could talk for hours about his lore. Like he has, there's so many theories because Games Workshop has kind of been like, hey, all of these rumors about what his actual goal is are all canon. Figure out which ones are true.
That's neat. I like that sort of thing. It's kind of like Fabius Bile is one of my favorite. He was an Emperor's child before he was well, he still is just wandering around and making horrors in the universe of 40K. But wasn't he an Emperor's Children apothecary?
He was the head Emperor's Children apothecary, who was essentially like, even before.
Oh, even before the heresy, he was a weird dude. He was
Oh,
all
yeah, like-
about that experimentation.
Oh, yeah, he was the first Noise Marines happened before even Fulgrim got the Demon Blade and started being corrupted. Like Commander Edion or Eldion, I can't. Someone can correct my pronunciation on that. I've only read the name.
That's right.
But he's the first noise marine.
Oh yeah.
He gets like totally messed up on this one planet, and then part of his healing process is they augment his throat because that was, uh, strangely enough, that was where he was grievously wounded in battle. So they're like, hey, I put all this stuff in your throat. Now your jaw opens extra wide, and your screams make people turn into meat jelly.
See, Fabius Bile seems to me like Dr. Nick Riviera or Dr. Zoidberg combined with just like, I don't know, a bad guy, right?
Mr. Sinister.
Yeah. That seems like about right. So, just to talk a little bit about the iconography that we got in front of us. I've now gone through and I'm just slowly broadening this out with the very point of my exacto. Now you can see, because this is a fresh blade, I still actually have a point on there. At some point that point in the near future, that point is going to break off because these blades are cheap. But what I'm going to do now that I've got the startings of that shape, I'm actually going to take Tamiya super thin or extra thin here, and I'm going to run it into that shape. Now what it's going to do is it's going to help to clean off a lot of the shavings that we can see all over there. Now I know that my shape is fairly solid because I can feel it with the knife blade that it is fairly straight and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off all of this extra little white bits of plastic that surround that shape that I've cut in there so that I can see it better. Anyway, continue along with our story about not Luther, but Cypher.
Yes. I mean, Luther is a whole nother bag of tricks, but that depends on how we're going with the reason behind the Fallen. If we go by the current canonical one, I've got some tidbits about him that are pretty interesting.
Right.
But if we go with if they were mutinous, then I have to tweak those a little bit.
So
he's still going to be a bit of a not cool dude.
So we can
also
leave that up to chat. But
yeah.
What are we feeling, everybody? Are we feeling more ruinous powers, or are we feeling more more along the lines of just a legitimate grievance against, our chapter brothers? So you guys can see really quickly here. I'll just get it to actually come into focus now. You can see.
So a little bit closer, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Let's get it all the way up
there. There we go.
You can see now that we've managed to clean it up a little bit, you can definitely see that we've got the starts of that shape. Now that shape is not perfect by any means, but if I go in there and touch it with a knife blade right now, no matter how careful I am, that plastic is all melted right now. So super glue, or not super glue, the Tamiya extra thin cement is essentially acetone. It melts plastic. That's how it bonds plastic together. So I've gone through and put some on there, and it is currently melted. If I touch this with my knife blade right now, it'll just be a soupy mess. So I'm going to give that probably about 10-15 minutes here, and then we should reharden as it flashes off, and we can get back to it. In the meantime, let's cut off that giant blade. So we're going to take our big ol' executioner's sword here, and where do we think, Adam, where should we cut this off? What seems like a good place? Are we talking about like there? Or do we want to go like further up the hilt, up towards the hilt? Like,
no, I would go probably like just above the writing there.
Yeah, you think that's it?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to give it a little bit more. Not that I don't appreciate and trust you. I'm going to give it a little bit more. We can always come down and trim it a little shorter once we got the model reassembled here in a little bit. Like, we'll blue tack them together here in a few minutes and start checking our composition and whatnot. But
it is fair, Steve. I do not have a good track record with customizing swords. They tend to fall apart.
Yeah.
But we do have a fun little segment coming up right about now.
Oh boy.
The old Hits on 2+.
Oh boy, let's get into it. Hits on 2+, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of my favorite segments that we do we're going to be doing every week. So what we are choosing is we are going around the internet and we are looking for items, photos, things that we've think will hit with the most of our audience possible. So when we show you these models, we need you to go down into the comments and we need you to tell us which of these models you are voting for on the Hits on 2 Plus. So let's start. Adam, what have you got?
Well, if you go down into the description and click on that link under Adam's Choice, you'll be taken to the Painting Prick on Instagram. And
I love that name.
Yes, he's got some nice comments on some stuff. He's a little bit of a sassy guy. It's pretty fun. You'll see one of my favorite Warhammer lore super soldiers, the Thunder Warrior. But not just any Thunder Warrior. Judging by his weapon, which is a plasma glaive, which is a whole another crazy weapon, not actually made by people or made by people from like the dark age of technology when everybody had super weapons and like the size of rings and stuff.
Yeah.
He is a member of the Legio Catagius. I can't actually pronounce the fake Latin name for Thunder Warriors, but the 20th one, which oddly enough, kind of like the 20th Space Marine Legion, little bit of sneaky boogers, kind of sneaky guys.
All right, you got me on the sneaky guys. Sneaky boys are my favorite.
Yeah, but because of their basis, they were actually sent out into the wider galaxy as a preemptive scouting force in force, because who scouts with 10,000 genetically engineered crazy berserkers?
Makes sense. That's what I would do.
I mean, it kind of strikes me like Steiner Scoutlands with 4 atlases, but who knows? So the model, like, I love his metallic work on this thing, mostly because I really enjoy.
Oh yeah, it's got that grimdark feel all over the place. I love it.
So grimdark. I love the chest tube. And actually, if you go to his page and you look at it, he's got some different pictures of it. But there's water dripping off the blade.
Yeah, that waterwork is
so good.
Chef's kiss on that one. That is great. So that is Adam's entry on Hits on 2 Plus. You can vote for him in the comments, or if you want to vote for me, we have possibly my favorite follow on Instagram.
Oh my god. Everyone must bow down to this man.
So,
he is...
for mine, I have chosen the craziest chaplain I could find. I felt like we were in chaplain territory this week, so it was modded and painted by @Thunderwolf, and Adam and everyone, feast your eye holes on the Soul Haunter spiritual leader, Chaplain Thanon. Oh boy, am I excited about this. I love the Soul Haunters, man. So,
they are the neatest homebrew chapter.
Yeah, buddy. So, I want to talk about a couple things on this model. First of all, I love the eyes on this thing. I'm a big fan of the whole red on red and it looking like a combination of crusty blood and rust. But on this model specifically, and why I'm choosing this one in particular from the Thunderwolfen, I cannot get over that iron halo. So,
oh my god, it is gorgeous.
So I want to talk about this for a second because this is the nerdy modeler part of me coming out. So he has on that head, there is the custom face mask, right? So that's pretty obvious. We are using the iron halo. It looks like from a Sigmarine, like from one of the, and I'm going to get this wrong. I want to say, well, it's just one of the armies of Sigmar. Can't remember exactly which one it is. I want to say it's a Questor, but that could be wrong. It could be a Judicator. They're all the same. They're like Space Marines, except for in not the old world. And then that iron halo. Sorry?
Sigmarine's Ho.
Sigmarine's Ho, indeed. And that iron halo is definitely a piece off of, I want to say, a Sisters of Battle. It could be out of Age of Sigmar. I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not 100%. But, man, just the way that whole thing works, it gets me. Also, I love the rusty base. Like, I am a sucker for putting just bits of crap and rusting them on a base for it to feel just old and beat up. It is
Watching his progress photos, like all of the robes on this mini are all green stuff.
Oh yeah. Other little things that I love about this model too. There are no purity seals. All of his O's are nailed on because that's how badass this guy is. He's just got nails going through his armor every which way. It is, again, a fantastic model. Definitely worth a follow. You can find links for both of our combatants. Go give them some love on Instagram. Go find them. Go tell them that we sent you. But also just go give them some love. Thunderwolfen, oh boy. Okay. So, that being said, you can, of course, vote below with your comments. We will be tallying a winner next week. And we will be bringing 2 combatants next week. If you want to get your stuff on the channel, you can always submit it. You can hit us up through the website, choiceminis.com, or you can email both of us, choiceminis@gmail.com. Hit us up, show us your work. We would love to see what you guys are up to. All right, let's get back to this sword. Let's finish it up.
I'm excited. I do love me a big sword. I have yet to have a D&D character who does not have a big sword or multiple big swords. I think Drayden at one point had 4 great swords on him at all times.
Well, that just makes sense. I mean, when you're not playing with encumbrance, you may as well hold all of the swords. So, again, to make this match up with our chapter symbol, I want to make sure that this is broken in the correct orientation. So if I remember correctly, it is down, down, down. I could be wrong about that, but I am going to mark it off. Again, using the same technique as what I did on the shoulder pad. What I'm doing is I'm very lightly tracing this on, and I could go find a pen or something like that and draw it and whatnot. But GW has such nice plastic that I can just go in and really thanks, Volks Nasty. Yeah, I think that is definitely my my vote on that one. Thanks, man. So we can come in and we can. I'm just gonna mark this with my knife here. And I'm just trying to get on just some light scratches. So you can see in the plastic, I've changed the shape a little bit. That looks pretty good. What I am going to do, I'm going to take a second here because this is one of those things. We are at the point in editing this that I definitely am going to take just a second here. And I'm going to go look up the chapter symbol. Thank you guys. I see y'all in chat. Like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Give me like 4 seconds here. I need to pull up the chapter symbol because I just got the all over body sweats because I only got one of those swords and I do not have the wherewithal to go and pick up that $140, $130 box set. So let's go and look up the Deathwing symbol real quick. All right. No, I don't want World of Warcraft Deathwing. Let's go and look up the 40K Deathwing. Let's go and look up their chapter badge. All right. And iconography. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're good. I'm feeling it. All right. So, let's get back to this. Let's break this sword in the right way. So, if I am going to break this sword, I'm going to come in at an angle and lightning bolt across this way. I'm glad I went and looked that up. So, let's quickly put this in. All right. All right. So let's get that marked out. Adam, how you doing, buddy? I see you in chat there, man. Did we lose? We lost my significant other. Oh no. Adam is disintegrated. So we're going to continue to talk about what I'm working on here. So I I've taken the sword from the
And here,
Judicar.
I had muted myself to eat chips and forgot to unmute myself because that happened.
Oh, buddy. All right. So we are going to take this part and then we're going to come up and then we're going to come over. I just want to make sure that I've got a sufficient enough little bit here that I can make this full chapter symbol show up. Hey, everybody in chat. So we're just going to keep going here.
And Steve, don't worry.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake on that, that is irreparably, you can't fix it. I have 2 of that guy, and you
have
can
one
have
of that
one.
guy. This is the other one of that guy. Because remember, I bought it off you.
Oh,
So when we
no, I do have 2 of them.
Oh, you buy another one?
Maybe.
Oh, nice. All right.
No, I got no, I didn't get another entire Indominus box. I got one of my random eBay purchases in the search for more bikes because you can never have too many bikes.
Oh, and I do love the new Outriders.
Oh, they're
Long live
fantastic.
the dwarves.
Yes.
Oh boy. Well, do I have something for you? We definitely have dwarves coming up soon. So, not this week on Thursday, but next Thursday, I can show you the test model for him. This is our new Helmguard Dwarf Giant. This is the test model. I finished him up, a couple weeks ago. Long live dwarfs. Yes, sir. So this is our Blood Bowl Dwarf. He is our test model for that round. That is next Thursday. This Thursday, we get to work on the Orkland Raiders, which is possibly my favorite pun that has gone way too far now. So if you guys join us on Thursday, we will be doing that stuff too. But tonight, we are working on Project Never Fallen. Adam, how are we feeling about this sword, buddy? And chat, how are we feeling about this sword?
I'm really digging it. I mean, as I mentioned before, I am not one to talk on modding swords because I have butchered my way through some of the nicest GW swords that they used to sell and have irreparably damaged some of them and regret it almost instantly.
Hey man, it happens to all of us. We all got to start somewhere, right? So I started off, let's see, the first model that I picked up, I think I actually have around here somewhere. I could go and find it at some point if chat wants to see it. But we all start somewhere. And actually, the first model that I ever modded, do you remember back when we played Spirit of the Century and I had the Uranium Magician?
Oh, the Uranium Magician.
Yep. So this was a game that we played. It's a tabletop RPG. Spirit of the Century. I managed to take enough skills so that I basically had Iron Man armor for my 1920s hero. So, yeah, it was one of those things that I modded the model just by taking and spinning little links of wire so that he was, all set up. So now that we've got this sort of modded and I'm kind of happy with that shape on the blade, let's take a little bit of a look at how this guy looks when he's assembled. Now, we're not going to get him all the way assembled, but we can at least see some parts of this stuff starting to come together. So with the sword over his shoulder, we're definitely looking for, on this composition, we still want to see that broken bit. Even like from our visible angle, like from our prime angle, we want to be able to see that broken bit of sword. So I've got that helmet that we 3D printed. Yeah. What do you think, Adam? How's that looking?
Oh, as not a huge Dark Angel fan, this might change my mind.
Right? So, I'm not a huge Dark Angel fan. I love my sneaky boys, but this is going to be torture. Any friend of the wolf is a friend of mine.
They're not even really sneaky boys.
They're not. They just have a dark secret like murder. It's fine. It's fine. That counts as sneaky, right?
Yeah, secrets are sneaky.
Yeah, see, my problem is that my favorite chapter, the one I am looking forward to the most, it is chapter 20. We are going to be waiting forever for me to get to the one I am most excited to both model and paint. Yeah, it is going to be a little bit, but chapter 20, the Alpha Legion, having never fallen, and Alfarius and Omegon are still out there somewhere. I mean, they're still out there now, they're not dead.
I mean, okay, I have a Horus Heresy book to lend you called Legion. That is about the Alpha Legion. And after that, my next statement will make sense. They never did fall. They did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, so there is all sorts of like alternate lore and stories about the Alpha Legion that I cannot wait to get to. So let's take a step back. Let's go back to our shoulder pad here. Let's make sure that we're happy with how this is looking and how it's working out. We're getting pretty close. Okay. From here on out, I think. Do you think we should glue it, Adam? Do you think we should tempt the fates like that?
You know what? Let's tempt the fates. It's
All
a
right.
first stream. We'll tempt the fates.
Okay, let's do it. So, again, I'm using Tamiya Ultra Thin, or Tamiya Super Thin. I'm going to say that wrong literally every time, guys. But I'm going to use Super Thin here. We are going to get that nice and glued on there. I'm just getting a rough position right now. Because the fun thing about having sprue goo around is I'm going to use my Tamiya Ultra Thin just basically to tack it in place. Like, we're not going to use it to... Well, it is a semi-permanent bond, but it is not absolutely in place. I could still cut it apart. I could still bring pieces together and rearrange things, but I'm going to throw this guy on there. We are in there. So you can see even now that the bond is pretty thin, right? We are not flooding this with glue. For anybody who hasn't done this sort of modding before or hasn't worked with, I went through like a 15-year stage where I didn't assemble models, and I was used to the old like tubes of Testor's glue. Do you remember those, Adam? Did you ever build models as a kid?
Yeah, I've built a few like World War II plane models
Yeah,
as a
exactly. That sort of stuff. I built the
Yeah.
Enterprise G because I was cool. But it was one of those things that, like, I remember that old Tester's glue. It was goop. It got everywhere. There was strings of stuff all over the place. If you haven't used modern model glue, oh man, we have made many advancements in the too many years since I was a child. But man, I cannot get enough of how much better glue is nowadays. So,
I love the selection of glues we have now. It's not just one.
oh yeah, and different glues for different materials, but also for different purposes. So I use this Tamiya Super Thin mostly to tack stuff in place. It is a melting glue, so it will eventually weld together parts by melting the two bits of the parts together. But you can see here, even with that nice weld in, I'll hold it up to the camera so you can see I've managed to narrow that gap pretty well just by putting the glue on there. Like, I haven't really gotten that fit to being the best possible fit it could be. I got it so that it would fit on there. We've got lots of gaps and stuff that we need to fill, and part of me says we need to fill those gaps with green stuff or some other modeling compound or plastic putty or something. But what we can do, and I alluded to it a little earlier in the stream, but this is just the same glue. So I'm going to put the cap on the other one so that I'm not dripping glue everywhere. This is the same glue, right? All I've taken is these off bits of plastic that are all over the place, right? Because we've been modding. And I just dumped them into the bottle of glue. This is actually several bottles of this stuff mixed together. And I'm going to clear some stuff out here. But we have mixed that all together so that now, if we take a look at this stuff, it comes out as this thick gray mass. And what it is it's basically just melted plastic. And I can actually use this to fill gaps. So I've got that tiny little gap on the side of that shoulder pad. And if I were me from 3 years ago, or even me from like a year ago, I would be reaching for green stuff and I would be spending the rest of the night futzing with that stuff. And I would be yelling and sad and possibly crying. But instead, I'm just going to take this stuff and I'm just going to drop it nearby and get it to fill that gap for me. Now, you're saying to yourself, that's really thick. It is everywhere. what are you doing, man? You spent so much time. No. Here's the deal. That stuff is going to dry just like all of our other plastic cement does, like just like the other plastic glue does. It dries, and it'll actually flash off, and you can already see that it is flowing to fill gaps. So if I get this real close, you can see that it is flowing from where I even originally put it down, and it'll fill in the gaps. And then I'll go back, I'll use my files, I'll use my knife blade again, and we'll get that so that it's in the proper place. I don't need to spend a bunch of time with green stuff or whatever trying to mold that in. I can just drop a little bit of that plastic putty in, wait for it to flash off, and then I'm good to go. Anyway.
See, I myself
Yeah.
love me some liquid green stuff, but I also have like the neat little like Games Workshop double spatula,
Yeah.
and have spent along like I was a fan of like liquid green stuff when they first released it. It did take me like a year or so to figure out exactly how best to use it.
Oh yeah, and I've used Vallejo plastic putty or green stuff or liquid green stuff a bunch too. I happen to like this way of going about things. So Adam, you got any more of that lore over there, buddy? Can you tell us?
Oh,
We were talking about Cypher before.
yeah, I could go in depth on Cypher. Like,
Sure,
I
hit
don't
us with it.
have-
Maybe Cypher could be in this reality. We've decided that Lionel Johnson still kaput, right? We feeling that? We feeling that as a good part of our lore here?
yeah, I don't think that should change. That's for a lot of the legions like that have the dead or missing Primarchs. I feel that would be kind of good to keep in there because it does
All right.
kind of
So
like set like the mood and culture of like the 40k legions.
all right. Well,
Alright.
let's consider him to still be gone. Do we think that Cypher would take over the Legion? Is that something that's in Cypher's character?
No, Cypher, like his position is like, as I said, it's more of like the keeper of all kind of secrets and like traditions.
Okay.
So he's almost like, I almost will say like he's a, because in 30k, like in the Great Crusade, they didn't have chaplains, or a lot of legions didn't have chaplains. So, the Lord Cypher, as he was known, is kind of like a Masonic lodge master. Like he's the one who kind of directing all the rites and all this. And the reason why he was essentially left behind on the home planet is that his job is, it's not a combat job. It is like a more of like a, not, I don't want to say like training people, but making sure that like everyone gets taught the right stuff and like how to be a secret little booger.
That's fair. Somebody's got
Um,
to train them in how to be secreted and sneaky.
yeah, like I honestly like I don't know a lot of like the new lore that's coming up through the Horus Heresy novels about Cypher. I'm basing a lot of what I know off of them about from like I would say probably as new as 6th edition.
That's fair.
Uh,
I mean, so let's talk a little bit about who the Dark Angels are. So we've talked a lot about, famous heroes and where they fit into the chapter and stuff. But like in broad strokes, what would you say? Like my feeling of the Dark Angels has always been that they are basically knight monks, monk knights. But
yeah,
definitely in like the vein of like a Eurocentric knightly class who are also monks of some sort, like maybe sort of Templar, Teutonic Knights, that kind of an order. What do you think?
Teutonic for sure, because they like the like historical Teutonic knights kind of, they're the ones that had like the black and white heraldry and like the wings on their helmets, and kind of lend themselves more to like that gothic knight image than say like the Knights Templar, where white and red cross, all that. But you're not like, that's basically what they are. Like they are warrior monks, like in
But not like say, our friends in White Scars who are warrior monks in a completely different capacity, right?
Yeah. Warrior monks think of like yeah, actually like kind of not like super along the same lines, but like traditional Knights Templar where they are monkish order, like a militant monkish order.
Yeah.
Because like on Caliban, their home planet, like it was full of chaos beasts, and to defend the civilian population, knightly orders were formed, and they used primitive versions of power armor, and like had black powder weapons like giant large bore revolvers and stuff like that, and like fought with swords and would like fought each other and fought like the giant chaos beasts.
Yeah.
So like yeah, saying like there are like warrior monks or like a monkish order of knights or whatever is very very accurate. And like despite my kind of enmity, and I can't even pronounce that
Enmity?
word right now. Yes, that word, to them just being primarily a Space Wolves player,
Yep.
they do have really really interesting lore. And I will admit that when I first got into 40k, they were my preferred chapter.
So, what I'm thinking of is if we continue on with this lore, there are some parts of that that I definitely want to play up a little more in their paint job than what we would traditionally see. And a lot of what I'm taking for inspiration in their paint scheme is, yeah, it's based in 40k. Like we're gonna move past. Unfortunately, as cool as it is, I think we're gonna move past the 30k paint job. So we probably won't be doing the black / extremely dark blue and red paint scheme. But I don't think, and maybe chat wants to help us out on this one. I don't think that I want to go straight dark forest green, like the woodsy green, and cream.
Yeah.
I feel like there is more interesting colors that can sort of reflect both that night aesthetic and sort of the more. I want to really lean into more of the Benedictine Franciscan monk sort of parts of that, as opposed to just straight up a knightly order, which would be something in my mind in 40k at least more along the lines of the Black Templar. And also there are others that we will get to, but I want to. This guy has got a giant cloak on, right? So we're only going to see little bits of his armor. We've got some of the legs showing. We're not going to paint him as a traditional chaplain. He's not going to be in all black with just a colored shoulder pad. So I wanted to bring whatever our replacement green. And I do have a sample where I was using the Reaver of Learning yesterday to start with this paint job. I will grab him in a moment here because I definitely want him around. But we also need to figure out a cape color that doesn't overwhelm that little bit of green. So I'm thinking something that's a little bit more weathered looking, a little bit more world worn looking, so maybe not brown, but something along those lines. We will get there shortly. And Adam, my biggest gripe with this model. I'm cleaning up around it right now with the knife.
Oh yeah, the holster for the enormous like executioner handgun.
Yeah, and I really like the gun. Like the holster and stuff looks cool, but let's talk a little bit about the modeling of this character. Now he's clearly walking forward. He's walking with purpose. He's got one hand slung over his shoulder, and we're gonna give him the other hand is gonna have basically a writ of execution. I think we're gonna be calling it. In the other hand, presenting it to his ultimately his victim. But saying all those words, his cloak is doing something that is absolutely physically impossible. So, if we look at what's going on here, we have a big wide spread on his cloak, and he's got, like drifty bits to give us some nice motion to the model, and we've got this nice, silhouette that is this nice triangle, and then he's got this like 25-pound gun just hanging off his hip in the middle of nowhere. Like that is a gigantic pistol. I want to show you. So for scale, that is his arm. It is longer than his forearm. That is I can't zoom out enough to show you guys how big that is in real life. That is feet long. Remember, this guy is 8 feet tall, 8.5 feet tall, and that weapon is longer than his arm, and it is somehow flying away from his body under the force of his hatred, I guess, out of the force of his purpose. That makes no sense to me. I do not like this. I love the idea of this gun.
Maybe he's got a bubble butt under the cloak. Who knows?
We can look up his skirts, and you're wrong. You're incorrect.
No bubble butt.
I feel like we should remove this. Chat, what do you think? Should we take... Am I allowed to take this gun off and replace it with something else? I really want to replace it with something else. I need like 2 seconds, guys. I'm going to go and run and grab the Reaver of Learning, and I will be right back. But sound off. Adam, tell us a fun story in the meantime.
Okay. Story time, kids. All right. Fun story. You know what? Just to keep it on topic, I'm going to tell a story that's a possible reason behind Cypher. The Lord Cypher, the mysterious fallen angel who likes to appear out of nowhere and do stuff that seems super shady but is actually good in the end. It's super weird. Games Workshop has been pretty closed about his true purpose. My personal favorite is that he is actually going... that his movements are slowly moving him closer to Terra, where he will then kneel at the feet of the Emperor and present him with the Lion Blade, which is the sword of his Primarch, and beg, repledge the Legion's fealty to the Emperor, thus redeeming all of the fallen.
Huh.
That is my personal favorite one. There's another one that's kind of simply the same lead up, but he uses the blade to finish off the Emperor because he's not fully dead, but is still a mummy. And
I mean,
that will
1,000
actually...
souls an hour is kind of dead.
Yeah. But what that will do is actually allow the Emperor to ascend to true godhood and be able to defeat Chaos in one foul swoop, which is why, apparently, why Chaos did the whole Horus Heresy thing in the first place.
So that they could get defeated?
So they could not get defeated. Like, the Emperor was like the linchpin.
Oh, I see. All right.
I think he was on his way to like ascending to godhood, because in the lore, the Emperor is actually the souls of every human psyker on Earth merged into one.
That sounds overly powerful. So while you were gone, or while I was gone, I went and grabbed one of this guy will become familiar to all of us. This is my friend, your friend, all our friends. This is the Reaver of Learning. He's making his first appearance on stream. This Reaver is going to get repainted more times than I choose to think about, because every time we are making a new paint scheme, we are going to pick up the Reaver of Learning and give him another coat of paint, because Reavers are dumb. That's not true. They look great. Like, they were one of the reasons why I was like, maybe I like 40k. But they are bad in the meta. They're replaced by infiltrators in so many ways. So, yeah.
They're bad in the meta. They are bad on the tabletop, as JP experienced that one game.
Oh, yeah.
But
I had an exclusively Reaver squadron, and it was gone for kill team in like round 2.
That's what happens when you fight Grey Knights, and they just kill guaranteed one person a game, or one person around each time.
Yeah, so we are obviously I put about a half hour to an hour into this guy last night, just to try and start figuring out what we were gonna do with paint color and whatnot. But you will see him many, many times. He is our Reaver of Learning. he will teach us all the things we want to know about how we are painting these guys. So I just figured I'd grab him. That is sort of where I'm thinking with the green. That is pretty close.
That's where I was thinking too. Like it's the same almost the same green but darker and like a little bit more emeraldy.
Yeah, so we will get into it when we actually get to paint our friend here. But for right now, yeah, we're just continuing to learn more and more about that green and how I want to build it and all the rest of it. I did finally, after months of it being sold out, manage to get my hands on some Vallejo gold. So that is our gold that's on this guy. And then the rest of it's just Vallejo model colors and a combination. Well, sorry, it is mostly scale color and then a little bit of Vallejo model color metals. So, or Vallejo metal color? Vallejo something metal. At any rate, we will put away the Reaver of Learning for a bit and get back to our current model. We're getting pretty close at this point in time to being at a place where we're probably going to be wrapping it up for the evening. So at this point in time, we've got the body mostly assembled. I'm waiting for somebody to weigh in chat about whether or not I am allowed to get rid of his gun. If we have nobody by the time we go live, so we will be back next Tuesday with Project Never Fallen. We are back on Thursday with the Orkland Raiders, which I'm really looking forward to. But if nobody says anything, I get to chop off this big stupid gun and replace it with, I've got a book here that I'm going to put on his hip instead, because I feel like that's what we're going to do. We've also got a little bit more work to do on the other arm, but again, I'm going to probably do that off cam just because it is some pretty intricate work that I've got to get done there to take that chain off without ruining a hand. Other than that, we have one more bit that I definitely wanted to get at least started this evening. And this is one of my favorite tools. Metal. This is not tinfoil, but it is just about as close as you can get. So, I am going to start the process of shaping his little writ of execution that we're going to use. So, let's get into it. We have.
I was wondering what you're gonna do with that. I thought you were gonna agree with that.
So this is one of the things that I like. I really love doing. I will try and keep it on stream as I'm doing this. This is how easily this stuff cuts. So this is just a regular pair of kitchen scissors, right? And I cut a piece, and now I have. So look at the dimensions of this. If I was trying to make this writ of execution out of green stuff, or out of plastic card, or out of any other material, I would have to have something that is way bigger than this. This is super thin. It is super skinny. And if I want to fold this, if I want to wrinkle it, all I have to do is use my little fingers, and I can add all sorts of interesting texture into this, right? Now this is obviously way too big. Like if we look at this to scale, it's not a writ of execution, it is a poster of your dead. We are not making a wanted poster that would hang off the side of a building, but what I am doing here is I am making texture into this tiny piece of, this is actually tin in this case, but I am putting texture into this larger piece of tin, and then I'm going to choose the part that I think is actually our writ of execution, right? And we want to make some pretty heavy texture in here, but we don't need to be overly worried about getting it nice straight corners or anything, because this is going to be a tatty piece of paper. This is going to be something that our little Justicar was given by, I don't know, an actual chaplain, by one of our Lord Confessors. Somebody else handed this off to him and was like, this is the one you're going to get to go murder. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll go find him and do some murder. But you can see all I'm doing is just really gently bending this, and it's giving us lovely bits of texture. And then we'll go through afterwards and we'll add some texture to the edges, like to the actual parchment itself, to make it look a little weathered around the edges. Just like, you know, your regular GW purity seals and stuff like that, where we have lots of little bits of texture around the edges, cuts and nicks and that sort of stuff. Except for unlike our regular GW, like the heck, I don't have one on the. Oh yeah, not really. I do not have anybody who has a purity seal on my desk, which kind of makes me happy. But unlike those regular purity seals that are fairly thick because they need to be injection molded, we can make something that is, this is 0.05 millimeters in thickness. It is super thin. I'm just going to choose a part. I'm not even married to that this is going to be the part. So I'm going to use this hand to get a little bit of definition and idea of scale here. So we'll try and move that guy to the middle. I got a pretty good idea that I want it to be about yay wide. So I'm just going to use literally, this is my X-Acto blade. It is a newish X-Acto blade, but especially for cutting this sort of metal, it doesn't have to be new. And then I'm just going to fold across that scored line. I didn't cut all the way through it or anything. I just cut across the scored line. It gives me a nice straight cut. Then I'm going to use this top part. Now, are the sides parallel? Nah, they're not. But we're going to fix that in a minute here. I want to get a little bit more texture in there. I'm not quite there. We got time. Okay. That looks cool. So again, just with the point of the X-Acto blade, I'm just running across. And you can see I'm not even flattening the texture that is already on there. I'm just scoring it. And I know that it's very hard to see this on cam. I'll get it a little closer so you guys can actually see what's going on. So you can see it's just very lightly scored. I didn't cut through it or anything. And then just putting a little bit of pressure on either side. I'm just going to fold this back and forth. And we will eventually get it to break along that line. And that'll give us a nice crisp edge that we can then proceed. So we now have our writ of execution, right? Okay, but it's being held inside of his fist. So let's make it being held inside of his fist. So I'm just going to knock this around with my fingers until such time as it's sort of folded over itself a little bit, like he would be grabbing it, right? Because that's what he's doing. Adam, have you ever used metal for modding your miniatures?
No, I've used actual paper though.
See, I have tried actual paper, and there is no amount of glue and stuff that agrees with me that I feel works in this particular manner. So let's get that rolled up. And I am going to spend a little bit more time working on this off camera, just because you can see this is pretty small, finicky work that we're doing here, but it is just, from me to you sort of tip is let's use one of the greatest materials known to man to make a nice little sheet of paper. And again, we have perfect edges. So I'm going to, again, just take my fingernail. That's how soft this tin is. So I'll get up nice and close. I can literally mark this with my fingernail and give it those nice texture-filled tatty edges that make it look like it has been through, it's been in his back pocket for the last week. We can, again, using our X-Acto, we can add little cuts and stuff to it so that it looks like it's been torn, right? And then we just open that up a little bit with our nail, or in my case, I open it up with my nail. This is a really good way to end up with lots of the worst kind of paper cut underneath of your nails. I'll put one more on this side, and I'm going to open it up a little bit just with the knife blade. And again, I'm going to put one of those over on this side. I'm going to make it a little bigger just for fun. And that's basically it. Now, again, I need to do a little bit more work on the hand, but you can see how that is shaping up, right? So at some point, I'm going to continue to fold this around so that it looks like it's all crumpled up and inside of his hand. And then I'll actually just cut that bit off. So if we can get some focus on this, which again, it likes my thumb more than it likes the bit. So we'll just cut that bit, that little raggedy bit there in the middle. We'll cut that off. I'll use the knife, and exactly as I showed you before, we'll just cut that bit around the finished hand, and then it'll be good to go. So we are coming up on the end of our stream. Thank you guys so much for being here for the first one. It means the world to me that I get to do this and that you guys joined us on for this one. Give me
It has
one
been
second here. Oh,
a blast.
yeah, it has been really fun. I really appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you guys for watching, for commenting, for being with us today. I am Steve Thomas. You can follow me on your social media of choice. Apparently, I need to get a TikTok account, but you can follow me. I am at Choice Minis. Adam, where can people follow you?
You can follow me at my not updated very often Mandalorian cosplay Instagram at beach_vacation_Mando. I just got some new tools and finally managed to get my hands on some automotive primer in a can for priming my first bucket. And I'm also going to dismantle a limited edition Boba Fett prototype Black Series helmet with electronics to use in my own helmet.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
I
I
was
am
going to
so
try and
in.
use that as my own helmet, but it's a child, so my head's huge and it doesn't really fit very comfortably.
That's totally fair, my friend. So, if you want to follow Adam, it's beach_vacation_Mando on Instagram. You can follow me again at Choice Medias. If you liked what you saw, take a moment, give us a like, subscribe, hit the little bell so you can hang out with us every time we go live. We will be back on Thursday at 6 o'clock here in Mountain Time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast. If you could, go and send some love towards both of our entrants in the Hits on 2 Plus. Go check out the links in the description. Vote in the comments. We want to see who is going to take the day. Vote. Vote, people. Otherwise, I'm going to run away with it because I looked through the comments. I'm already winning. So if you want Adam to win, go vote for his entry. If you want me to win, I'm always going to win. I'm the best part of this. All right, everybody.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably gonna vote for yours, Steve. I really, really love Thunderwolfen's work, and this is one of his best ones.
I pulled out the big stops on the first one. I have no idea how I'm gonna follow this up. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here on the first one. I've had a ton of fun. I am Choice Minis. We will see you guys in a few days. Take care. Have a good night. And do something about white supremacy.
It is bad and evil.